Hi, today in this video you will learn entity relationship model in DBMS. So ER model is a short form of entity relationship model. ER model defines the real world in the form of basic objects, and these objects are called entities, and it defines the relationship among these objects. So ER model defines everything in the form of objects and show the relationship among these objects. It also deploys a very simple and easy to design view of data. So ER diagram does not require any technical knowledge or hardware support. It is very easy to understand and easy to create. So here I'll explain with an example. Here student is an entity. Student, his roll number, his name and his course attribute. So here in this diagram there are two entities. One is a student, another is department. We define the relationship between these two objects like this. So here student study in department. So we define entity in a rectangular and the relationship between the entities in diamond and the attribute in the eclipse. So the component of ER diagrams first is entity. Entity is a real word. It can be a person, place, or even a concept. For example, teacher, student, course, building, department, etc. are the entities. As I showed in a diagram, student is an entity and we represent student in a rectangular. Now there are some weak entities. What is weak entity? Weak entity that depend on another entity is called weak entity, and it is represented by a double rectangle. Here you can see in the diagram hotel and room. These are two entities. Here hotel is a strong entity and room is a weak entity. That's why we represent in a double rectangle. Suppose hotel does not exist, so there is no existence of room. Room is totally depend on hotel. That's why this is room is a big entity and hotel is a strong entity. And when we show a relationship between a strong entity and a big entity, it's represented by a double diamond. Here you can see in a picture when I show a relationship between these two entities, one is strong, one is weak entity. Here I've used double diamond. Now next is attribute. An entity contains a real world property called attribute, and this is the characteristics of an attribute. The entity like a teacher has a property like teacher ID, salary and age, etc. So here you can see student is an entity. Their properties like roll number, name, courses are the attributes. Similarly, department is an entity. Department number, department names are the attribute which shows the property of these entities. There are many types of attributes. First is key attribute. Key attribute is used to define the main characteristics of the entity and it represents a primary key. The key attribute is defined by an ellipse with underscore. Here you can see in this diagram, roll number is a key attribute and we define this attribute with underscore. This is our primary key which uniquely defines this entity. Every student have a unique roll number. That's why it's a key attribute and we represent it with underscore. Here you and similarly in department number is a key attribute. Uh, every department has a unique number. That's why we create it as a key attribute. A key attribute is defined with underscore. Now next is composite attribute. An attribute that formulate of numbers of other attribute is known as composite attributes. I explain with an example so that you can understand easily. So here student is an entity, his roll number, name and course. So name formulates other attributes like first name, last name. So name is a composite attribute. Roll number is a key attribute here and we represent with underscore. Name is a composite attribute because it formulates numerous attributes. That's why name is a composite attribute. I hope you understand. Now next is multi-valued attribute. An attribute that can have more than one value called as multi-valued attribute, and we represent multi-valued attribute with double oval. Here a phone number is a multi-valued attribute because a student can have multiple phone numbers. So roll number is a key attribute, name is a composite attribute, and phone number is multi-valued attribute because a student can have more than one phone number. The next is derived attribute. An attribute that can be derived from other attribute is known as derived attribute and is represented as by a dash eclipse. Here you can see we can derive the age of a student by his date of birth. As age change over the time, so we can derive it using his date of birth. So we can derive it using his date of birth. Now next is relationship. Relationships tell how two attributes are related to each other. For example, teacher work for a department. Here you can see in this diagram study in showing the relationship between student and department. Student study in department. So here study in showing the relationship. So there are many ways to represent the relationship between the entities. So firstly, one is one-to-one relationship. It's a relationship where a record in one entity is associated with the exactly one record in another entity. Here you can see in every country has a one capital city. So this is one-to-one relationship and we represent with an arrow. You can see here every country has a one capital city and this is one-to-one relationship. How we represent? We represent with an arrow. And next one is one-to-many relationship. When only one instance of are left, more than one instance of an entity on the right associate with the relationship. This is known as one-to-many relationship. Here you can see customer can make order more than one. We have one customer and order can be many. And we represent one with arrow and this simple with line, simple line. Now next is many-to-many relationship when more than one instance of the left entity and more than one instance of the entity on the right associate with the relationship. This is known as many-to-many relationship. Here employees assign projects. So this is a many-to-many relationship. An employee can have many projects and a project can have many employees. So this is many to many relationship and this is how we can represent this relationship. Thank you for watching my video. Hope you like my video. If you like my video, please like and subscribe my channel.